somewhere down the line. But I would imagine, Matt, I think it depends on the performance here. If he gets beat, but it's like a better showing, then maybe there's another fight. But if he loses badly, I really think that UFC and Dana White will think, I think that's just about it for us now. And, if you want to pursue it more, you're going to have to do it in another MMA company. But obviously, Matt, he has been away for a good time now. I mean, it's been a huge gap, hasn't it, between his last fight, Mickey Gall. I mean, this was a couple of years ago. So you've got to imagine the skills would have gone up here, Matt, and the team that are working around him. And he's got a good team, by the way. He's in a very good camp. Would have identified where he completely went wrong, working on his ground game, whatever he needs. You've got to imagine, Matt, that they're going to be a little bit, and he's going to be a little bit more readier than what he was back then, surely, with all this gap.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident we're going to see a marked improvement in the guy and his skills and technique. He's got to come at this with a game plan as well. It's not going to be just enough to rely on what he's been taught. He's going to have to come in with a plan this time around. So hopefully he can be flexible with that as well and not actually just get stuck and end up on the ground and be dominated. I mean, we've always known he's had a Muay Thai background anyway, so hopefully maybe standing up might be the way for him to go. Maybe it's a bit more natural that way. Yeah,
it's like he just didn't... I mean, Mickey Gall was just so, he wanted that name, take him down, it was going to get him over, and I think that, he had a game plan, but he's a great fighter. I mean, he's gone on to be a credible fighter, so he isn't a rubbish fighter that beats CM Punk. He's literally, gone on to do some good things. We will be covering that on the podcast when it comes up for that one, UFC 225. We'll have Daniel Puder with us as well to give us his thoughts. But also, just sticking with UFC now, Matt, obviously people are emailing in, what is the deal that Brock Lesnar's got, other than being paid a lot of damn money, which probably came from Saudi Arabia now. That's probably why he got that contract. The idea, Matt, that he is going to do the UFC again, I mean, everyone is saying the same thing here. Dana White has said he is doing another match, and I'm guessing that they are waiting. From what I understand, Matt, they are waiting to see who the winner out of Daniel Cormier, the light heavyweight champion, up against the heavyweight champion, Stipe. Apparently they are going to wait to see who wins that. And you saw it at a press conference, Matt, from Dana White, where he said, maybe Brock gets that match, because that is, on paper, the money match. Now, that is going to upset a lot of UFC fans, no doubt about it, Matt, because, I'm just looking on here now, and I'm looking at, like, the top 15 rankings, and you're thinking all these guys have been working their socks off, and then all of a sudden, Brock Lesnar comes in, rolls into town, and he's taking the biggest, the best fighter and the biggest payday probably as well. But opportunity is there, Matt. Brock Lesnar is not going to turn that down. If there's one thing we know about Brock Lesnar, Matt, he's not stupid and he knows where the cash is. What do you think to a match like that, Matt, and how much attention will that get if UFC... And do you think UFC will go that route of waiting for the result of that match between the light heavyweight champion and the heavyweight champion to then feed them to Brock Lesnar almost?
Yeah, well, it does kind of make sense, doesn't it? And, I know Brock Lesnar gets a lot of stick for the work schedule that he does, especially WWE, that he doesn't really put on as many matches as he could. But, that's just smart at the end of the day, isn't it? I mean, why work more when you don't have to? And when it regards to the UFC, about him just waltzing in and getting a sort of top end of the actual number one contendership kind of area, I'm not against that either. He has put in a lot of hard work. He might not have been in the UFC, but then he did what was smart and went back to WWE and kept his stock rising. He became the top guy in WWE again, almost effortlessly, and that put him in the spotlight. I mean, I'm sure there's things that people in the UFC could be doing to raise their notoriety. I mean, maybe some of them might want to consider going to WWE, but you know, I'm sure that's not really on the top list of their agenda. But I'm sure that's a move that they could do. There are many things that you can do that way. But I'm quite excited to see who his opponent will be next in the UFC. I mean, I'm kind of feeling that they will build him up a little bit more. It just kind of makes too much sense for both companies. For UFC to have Brock winning makes money for them because it keeps him important. It keeps him like when an opponent challenges him, it generates more interest because he's kind of on a winning streak. And the same with WWE. It's been that way for years now, hasn't it? He just keeps winning and it generates more interest, and we want to see who will be the eventual one to take him off his perch.
Do you think, Matt, that WWE would allow him to be champion when he does that, or do you think that's not happening like last time?
You know, I kind of felt like they wouldn't allow that, but you know, he just keeps defying the odds. He keeps holding on to that belt, and it almost makes me wonder why. Why is he retaining all the time, even against the odds? Even when we thought Roman was a dead cert, and then the second match with Roman, he still retains. It's like, why? There has to be a plan. And you know, if Brock can go to the UFC and can win the UFC heavyweight title, how incredible is that for WWE to have like almost the key figure in, you know, the martial art world, like mixed martial arts, and also in the WWE sports entertainment world combined into one, and then them to have the contract over this guy. That's a statement of power there.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Matt, because I could see why last time when he fought Mark Hunt, you know, obviously we knew that Triple H and Vince actually watched the show live because Triple H tweeted that him and Vince were watching it at Vince's place, so you know they were watching it, but they must have been thinking to themselves, you know, has he still got it? He obviously didn't want to risk it in a match where it was just a sort of a top. I think he was top 5 at the time in the rankings. He was a knockout artist, Mark Hunt, so you were really putting him in a dangerous circumstance. He wasn't against another wrestler, and you know what Brock's like when he gets hit. So WWE would have been sitting there thinking, yeah, maybe we don't want him to lose against, you know, just a top 5 guy, but I mean, the potential I think there's more of an upside, Matt, than there is a downside if he holds that belt, because if he goes in as the WWE champion, he's known as the current WWE Universal Champion, not even the champion. I mean, this is the other thing, Matt. I mean, WWE could palm this off. Well, actually, we've got another champion, so, you know, and that's our sort of longest historical belt. This Universal one, Matt, they could get around it. I mean, if he loses, he loses. I mean, is it that big of a deal if you're losing to a guy like Stipe or Daniel Cormier, who are arguably the current best guys in UFC at that weight class? So it wouldn't be that bad. And plus, Matt, as well, it's not like Brock Lesnar's a baby face where he can't come back and be like, you know what, I didn't lose that match. You know, he can make up any excuse he wants. I didn't lose in the octagon. I never tapped, or I never did this, or he got lucky. Paul Heyman and everything else. There's so many ways around it, Matt, that WWE could play that off and still keep Brock, you know, as a credible heel and his stock up. It would be different, Matt, if he was a baby face and they were sending him there, because that puts a lot more pressure. But I just think, man, imagine Brock comes back, the first ever in history. We already know Brock's made history anyway by being, you know, the first ever UFC champion and WWE champion. But what about at the same time? When are they ever going to get that opportunity again, Matt? I mean, I don't see many Brock Lesnar's coming out here that have been successful as he has. Yeah, we've seen the likes of Batista give it a go. We've seen Bobby Lashley give it a go, but not with the sort of success that Brock Lesnar had and the sort of credible buy rates that he was drawing in. This is a guy that headlined UFC 100 that still to this day, Matt, was the biggest buy rate that place had ever seen. So when you've got this opportunity, Matt, surely you just say to yourself, let's just throw the dice and see where this lands, because this could be the upside of it. It could be amazing for us, and we've got that in our books. And like you say, Matt, they've got him under contract, so WrestleMania next year could be, you know, that guy, whoever it is. Maybe it's not Roman, but whoever the guy is, imagine all that stock going into him. You know, it'd be UFC that would be more worried then, wouldn't it, Matt?
Yeah, definitely. And I've got to applaud Vince. If that's his game plan, it'll be more like the Vince of old. Maybe he'll be back on form, but maybe we're just reading too much into this. Maybe something terrible is going to happen, and we'll be like, "What?" Yeah.
That's you're definitely right. We don't want to get too above ourselves there on this one, for sure. Okay, before we move on to talking about the United Kingdom tournament 2 dates that come up. Just going to give everyone a heads up that we are doing retrospective series very soon. The first of them is going to be No Holds Barred. Massive fan base for this. So that will be coming out this month. I can pretty much say that. Myself and Matt are going to literally just book out a date and get that recorded, and that will be uploaded as soon as that's done. But also, Matt, we are also going to be covering Beyond the Mat as well this year at some point. Plus, around a SummerSlam sort of time, we are going to be going back to NXT TakeOver, the first one that was in Brooklyn, the first big live crowd event for that one that myself and Matt had the privilege of sitting there watching, of course, what arguably was the best match of that year between Sasha Banks and Bayley. Oh God, it does make you think what's happened in the years following, doesn't it? How could it all go so wrong? But we're really looking forward. I haven't seen that show, Matt, for a long time now, so that'll be really good to go back to that, because there were so many guys on that show that I don't think there's anyone that were there then that are there now. I don't think there's anyone. So through good and the bad, some guys have made it good, some guys not so much, but I'm sure we'll talk about that whilst we're watching the show. All that and more coming up. And don't forget, folks, we've just spoken about the UFC. We will be doing a special show in June for the CM Punk UFC 225. We'll also be talking about the other fights on there as well, because we will have Daniel Puder on the show, who's very knowledgeable in these things, the unbeaten MMA fighter, and former 1 million, of course it wasn't quite £1 million, total false advertising as usual from WWE Tough Enough winner. It was about 250,000 and he didn't even see all of that, so there you go with that one. Make heads or tails of that. Okay, Matt, now another shows that we're going to be going to back to back this time. Royal Albert Hall, Matt. Of course, the United Kingdom double night here for them. How much have you seen much of the news for this, Matt? And have you been keeping a close eye on what's going on and what isn't for this one? And how hyped are you that we're actually going to go to this one? I know we watched the last one from where it came from, which was Blackpool, but to actually go to this, it should be really cool and unique.
Yeah, I definitely think so as well. And slowly but surely WWE are releasing more information about it. I heard that nearly all of the, was it four NXT championships are going to be defended on the second day?
Yeah.
That's positive right there. It's almost combining like two great things at once. You get the best of the British wrestling, and you're getting the best almost of what some people might consider the best of WWE, because NXT is fresh, and a lot of stuff that you see there you haven't seen before, so we're going to see some of that, and even maybe see the new championship they've got down at NXT, the North American, be there to be defended. So I'm quite interested to see how that all pans out. And of course, day one is going to be all of the qualifying matches, so a little bit of a blast from the past for us, for getting back into that old King of the Ring kind of vibe, a real kind of genuine feel about that one.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. Obviously, Pete Dunne in the house, and it was interesting, Matt, that WWE have also signed some fresh UK talent as well, which kind of makes you wonder. There is a little hidden battle going on over here between, of course, World of Sport that are producing again. They are trying to do some episodes. They ran a pilot a few years ago. I think you remember around the same time actually that the WWE were here, and we kind of were thinking, hang on a minute, why have they sped that up so quick? Well, they've now signed, of course, one of their headline guys from that show, Dave Mastiff, Matt. He's going to be there. And also El Ligero, who I'm sure everyone's familiar with in the UK. He's been an active indie guy for a long time, considered by many, actually, as one of the most